Why choose a Sleep Number smart bed?
Can I make my site softer?
Can I make my site firmer?
Can we sleep cooler?
Sleep Number does that. Cools up to 8 times faster and lets you choose your ideal comfort on either side. Your Sleep Number setting. Enjoy personalized comfort for better sleep night after night. It's the final days of our Black Friday sale. Recharge this season with a bundle of cozy, soothing comfort. Now only $17.99 for our C2 mattress and base, plus free premium delivery. Prices higher in Alaska and Hawaii. Check it out at a Sleep Number store or sleepnumber.com today.
Today we are joined by a very special guest, the absolutely hilarious comedian Stephen Bolles. He is here to share his story about what happened when he got married and then had to split. Welcome to the Worstship, Stephen. Thank you so very much for taking the time out to be with us today. So I have to ask you, before you got married, this is a little bit of foreshadowing for the listeners, but before you got married, did you ask your now ex-wife, if she had cheated on anyone before, and had you been cheated on by anyone before your ex-wife?
Well, thank you for having me, first of all. And secondly, my ex-wife was really only my second major relationship. So I was literally like first girlfriend, first wife, and with my first girlfriend, neither of us cheated. And I had never really been in relationships before that. So I had never been cheated on before. And when we had spoken about it, she said that she had not cheated. She said that she had also only been in 2 major relationships before me. So I kind of like that I thought we were on the same pace there. I only had 1, she only had 2 major relationships. And she made both of those relationships sound very hands-off. One of the first things she said to me when we started dating was that she would not be in a closed relationship. So both of her previous relationships were open relationships, and she was also from Spain. And I came to understand that Spain is a lot like France, where it's like everyone got a wife and a mistress. It's just like the European way. Like they're not jealous over there. I don't know. It's just a different way of living over there. And at the time, when we started dating, I was in my mid-20s. And I'm just a dumb, naive guy. And I'm like, oh, yeah, I can have a girlfriend and maybe sleep with other people, too. That sounds perfect. The open thing sounds so good on paper. And it ended up, I think it's the root of all evil now. It just ends up breeding jealousy, because even if you're dating the ugliest woman on earth, she's still going to be able to pull way easier than any man ever will. So we went into it open, which made a lot more sense, because she moved to the country in 2017 when we met, and she was back and forth between here and Spain a lot. So she was like, I'm not going to ask you to be exclusive if I'm going to be gone for like weeks at a time, which she was when we started dating. Mm-hmm. So that all made sense. And to my knowledge, she had never like egregiously, cheated on any boyfriend before that. But, knowing what I know now is that she never would have told me if she had, so yeah.
Okay, like before we jump into the cheating just yet, so I would like to know, how quickly did you and Carrie, your ex-wife, move in together, and whose idea was that?
It was actually her idea, but the funny thing is, when we met, we literally lived across the street from each other. Like, she was like maybe 50 steps from my apartment. So when we met, it was like we practically already lived together, because she would either come to my place or I would come to her place. And she ended up getting a new apartment like 6 months into us dating, and it was just down the road from where I was at. So by the time she was moving into her new place, she said we should live together, and it just felt like a no-brainer because we both already were, and my lease was ending around the same time. So it ended up just kind of working perfectly. So it was her idea, but I was happy to move in. And, we were splitting rent 50-50. The place she found was cheaper than the apartment that I was staying at. So it was an absolute no-brainer to move in with her and pay a little less rent and, be able to live with my girlfriend.
So when you guys were dating, how long were you dating before you got married?
So we dated for 2 years before we got married. And we ended up getting married in March 2020, which is also foreshadowing, like you mentioned.
You're the one who keeps calling it foreshadowing, like you told me it's foreshadowing because of the pandemic, which is very, very funny. So when you guys were dating, were you guys fighting?
No, we were really not fighting much. We had our disagreements, pretty much like any couple does, but we really did not start fighting until after the pandemic. And it just kind of got worse and worse from there, to the point that I know we'll get into the details of her affair later, but we were fighting so bad that like by the time I discovered her affair, like I understood why she had one, like our marriage was not good. And that's why we tried to work past the affair in the first place. Or that's why I tried to work past the affair in the first place, because I felt guilty because I knew our marriage was not in a good place and I knew we were fighting a lot. And honestly, I blame the pandemic for that a little bit because we were supposed to get married at the end of March. March 29th was our wedding date. And what's kind of crazy with the whole pandemic was that she's from Spain, right? And everything that happened to us in March 2020 happened in Spain in like January. It was like it was spreading across Europe first before it got over here. So we saw everything happening in Spain. We're like, this is going to happen here. So we ended up canceling our wedding. Our wedding was scheduled for March 29th. And we ended up canceling our wedding like at the very end of February. And what's so funny is we got all of our deposits back, which was incredible. It literally saved our lockdown because we had money for the lockdown. But when we canceled our wedding and we emailed everybody for the deposits back, I swear to God, every email had this undertone of like, okay, you hypochondriacs, let us know when you want to have a wedding, and then I swear to God, everything shut down like 2 weeks later. And so we actually ended up getting married at the courthouse on March 12th. And then I swear to God, I think everything was shut down like within a week after that. But we got married at the courthouse just because, she's from Spain. So she has immigration shit to deal with. And her lawyers were already working on the fact that we're getting married. So it's not like we're going to, change the paperwork or not get married. She is a lot more legal things to keep track of than I do, just being a citizen here, So we got married on March 12th at the courthouse. We had little COVID masks that said just married. Like,
Jesus.
it was very cute.
Oh my God. I didn't even think about a detail like that. OMG. You're calling it cute. I'm calling it very disturbing. It's just like, there's people who are walking around with masks today.
Just to get back to your question about fighting, I was going to mention that the pandemic really did not do us any favors in terms of fighting when it was like first 3 months were like lockdown. And we treated that like a staycation honeymoon, and that was all easy breezy. We had all these deposits back from the wedding. We had more money than either of us has had in our own pockets, like in our entire life. And we were just living like kings. We were doing Grubhub twice a day. We're like, fuck it. This is our honeymoon, But then by the time like summer came around, I started working for TaskRabbit because it was the only job available. And I started doing moving gigs every day, which was so lucrative. Everyone was moving out of the city. I was doing 2 moving gigs a day. I started making even more money hand over fist. But the problem was my girl was not working during the pandemic. She could not work during the pandemic, just like most people. So it was like I would be gone all day, sweating, doing pretty heavy labor, and then coming home. And she's just been waiting for me all day, And at a certain point, it was like I wanted like alone time and I could never get it. And I feel like that started us down like a rocky path, And that's one of my only regrets looking back at this was, maybe should have balanced that out a little better. But I think in terms of fighting, that's really where it all started.
It's so interesting. Wait, you said something about divorce in December, but are you talking about December, last year?
No, sorry, our divorce finalized this past December. So December 2023.
Yeah, last year. Okay, awesome. So you mentioned that your ex would share her location. Did you ask her to share her location? Have you followed the location of any of your exes before her?
What's funny is when you asked me that, I actually I thought for sure it was a yes, but thinking back on it, I'm pretty sure in my first relationship with my first girlfriend, I'm almost positive we didn't share location because I don't remember looking at her location very much. Me and my ex-wife shared location. And, I've always thought of it as like a safety thing, because my parents and my sister have my location. And at this point in my life, like I live with my best friend and he has my location and I have his. And, with him, it's more like so I could see if I'm out about in the city, if he's out and about in the city, but with a partner, with a relationship, I'm like, yeah, I want to share location like as a safety thing, and then, yeah, so I haven't in the past and now I do for sure. because that's the wildest thing. We shared location and she still did it anyway. You know what I mean? So sometimes it feels like, what's the point?
And so you mentioned, so I'm kind of skipping ahead. So I just mentioned the sharing location. Can you share your story a bit, an abridged version? Well, you could actually make it however detailed you want, but of what happened, because right now,
Sure.
in my notes, I'm getting to the massage part. So you could kind of, if you
Yes.
could share with everyone what happened with the sharing of the location, which we don't have to name the exact,
Sure.
thing that you mentioned
Sure. Of
before that
course.
location. But if you could just kind of walk us through how you found out that she was, well, actually, before I mention the cheating, because that happened in the marriage. Before I mention that, so were you sleeping with other people when she would take trips to Spain? And was that the only time you were sleeping with other people? And was she sleeping with other people in Spain? Or did she just say to you, you could sleep with people when I'm out of the country? What were the rules? What were the parameters?
Yeah, that is the confusing thing. Was initially when we started dating, it was meant to be like reserved for travel. Like the general idea was like you shouldn't be looking for strange if your partner is waiting for you at home. That was like the general idea. And I knew that when she was in Spain, she's just hanging out with dudes that have been sleeping with her for longer than I have, you know? So who am I? Who am I to get between that? And the funny thing was when she first brought me to Spain, I met her circle of friends and I met presumably some of these dudes. And I got to be honest with you, they were all so hot. I did not care. I was like, I am now the head of a league of extraordinary gentlemen. And they were all so respectful to me too. You know, like it's just the culture over there. You know what I mean? Like it's not as like, like machismo testosterone as it is here. You know, they were very respectful to me. Like even if something had happened between them in the past, I didn't notice it. They weren't weird around me or her.
But yeah, I personally think they were respectful because they out here in these streets, they have community dick. They don't have any reason to be acting funny with you and her when they probably have like a long line of women, outside or on their roster that they could like hook up with at any time.
Oh yeah.
There are enormous cultural differences when
Yes.
it comes to different countries, but Europe, obviously, that's what we're talking about being one of them. So yeah, they had no reason to be weird, like you're saying, versus in the States, like maybe somebody would maybe give you a little bit of a hard time. Like, no, they are so past having any type of feelings for Carrie because over there, like, or in certain countries, sex is a very casual thing. It's kind of a way of saying hello, how are you? You know what I mean? So they
And as
don't.
a horny 20 something, that sounded amazing to me. You know, I was working on getting that Spanish passport.
So they were
Yeah.
tripping on you. So when you met them, you're saying they were respectful and you knew she had hooked or she assumed she had hooked up with some of them. Uh-huh.
Yes, yeah. And in terms of me, like I can count on one hand the number of times I took advantage of the open relationship. And the funny thing to me, and one thing that really made me believe in an open relationship more was that when I did sleep with someone else, it usually made me miss my wife, as weird as that sounds. Just because I'm like, oh, it's like sleeping with other people is fun until you remember that like 85% of people don't know how to fuck. So like, when you,
85?
huh?
85.
I don't know. It's just there's a lot of starfish in this city. I ain't gonna lie to you, but yeah. So I very rarely slept with anybody else outside of our marriage. Well, outside of our relationship, because basically by the time we got married in the pandemic. So she was not traveling. She did not travel to Spain for like more than a year after the pandemic started. So by then it was essentially a closed relationship because we were, we were in bed together every night. We were both in the same bed every night.
But I was asking like what were the rules and parameters? Was she sleeping with people when she would go to Spain? Would she tell you those things?
It was very much a don't ask, don't tell policy. And now I know that really does not work. Like since I've been single, like I've been on the apps, I've been on Field. That's a big app for like poly people, polyamorous people, and ethically non-monogamous people. And after dating and talking to so many of these people, like none of them are like, oh, we have a don't ask, don't tell policy. Like nobody in a happy, open or polyamorous relationship does the don't ask, don't tell, because it just breeds jealousy. It breeds secrets. You know, every poly person I've spoken to who has an open relationship that seems to be working, like knows what their partner is doing, even when they're doing salacious things, you know? It's just like, it's about being open. It's about trust. It's about communication. And at the time, my ex-wife and I had a don't ask, don't tell policy because she don't want to hear about me with other women, you know, and I didn't really want to think about her with other dudes either. So it was a don't ask, don't tell policy. And
Now, do you wonder about how many people she hooked up with?
oh my God, yes. That's the thing, is that like also, I mean, like the only things she ever admitted to were things I caught her lying about. So she never, ever, ever came clean about something that she did. She would only come clean about something I caught her doing. So it's like, I know that I only know the tip of the iceberg, you know? So
Yeah.
God knows how many other dudes she'd been fooling around with, like while we were dating, while we were married. I have no idea. I was saying that that's like almost what bummed me out the most when we broke up, was like, you know, when you go through a breakup, you delete all the pictures together. You're like, fuck them, I never want to see them again, blah, blah, blah. What messed me up was not our pictures together. It was actually pictures when I was out and about in the city, either for a holiday or just out having fun with friends, and pictures she's not in, pictures that she said she was at work, because now I know like that was probably bullshit, you know? So it becomes a thing of like, oh, what was she doing that night that she should have been at that event with me, you know? So that's yeah, that fucked me up for a while.
Okay, well, now let's get to the actual story, the meat and potatoes, if you will.
Yes. I'm excited. So the main story was, this was in early February 2022. She said she was, you know, going to be at work late. And I used to have a joke on stage about how I love tracking my wife's location on Find My, because she traveled for work a lot. I don't, is it okay to say her job? Is that all right? What do you think?
Let's just say she traveled for work a lot.
All right. She traveled for work a lot, but she was usually home the same night, you know, sometimes late. So she'd work in, you know, we live in New York City, but she might be working out in Long Island. She might be working out in New Jersey, somewhere in the tri-state area. And so I used to joke that I love checking her location, because when she said she's on her way home, I can check her location and see if she's 20 minutes away or if she's 3 hours away, because then, you know, I have time to watch a TV show and clean, you know, or if she's 20 minutes away, I got to clean up the house before she get home. Right. So one night in February, you know, she says she's going to be working late. And so I check Find My to see how far away she is. And she is not far away at all. She is like 15 minutes away from where we live. And I thought it was a little strange, but also I was still giving her the benefit of the doubt, because I was like, you know, maybe they finished with work early and she's just drinking with the girls after work, you know, and she doesn't want me to worry. Like I can understand something like that, you know? So I kind of made a mental note of it. You know what I mean? But I didn't think too much about it. And then the next day I was at work and she told me that she was in the Bronx with some of her friends. And I just kind of got curious and I opened Find My again, and she was not in the Bronx. She was at the same location that she was at the night before. And the wild thing is that this location is literally like 10 minutes away from my job. And so I was like, fuck it. And I just told my boss I was going to go smoke a cigarette. And I go outside, I walk to where her location is.
Oh my God. You sound tight right now. You sound heated.
I already knew something was up, because to be honest, when I'm walking over there, I was just like praying that it was like a restaurant and like she's going to be sitting in there with all of her friends, like from the Bronx, like maybe they were in the Bronx, but now they're at this restaurant, you know, that's what I'm hoping. And so I walk to this location and it is not a restaurant. It is a hotel.